Startling new data is revealed after the outbreak of war in the Middle East.
There's a sad tendency for this to be exacerbated.
There's absolutely no need for the type of hatred and violence.
Muslim and Jewish groups report a spike in hate crimes to police, how local leaders are reacting to the troubling trend.
If Ms. Jama has an issue with that, then she can come into her place here and speak as opposed to hiding somewhere else.
Plus, legal action against Doug Ford. We'll have the latest on the NDP member accusing the premier of libel, while Sarah Jama is under threat of censure linked to online comments on the Middle East conflict.
Happy birthday to you.
And celebrating a centenarian. We'll introduce you to the man being honored at the very retirement home he helped build many years ago. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Toronto's police chief says hate crime reports are up a staggering 132% in the nearly 2 weeks since Hamas's attack on Israel. Chief Myron Demkew says there have been 14 hate crime reports between October 7th and today. That is compared with 5 during the same time period last year and just 1 the year before. Since the outbreak of the war, the chief says he's been meeting with members of the Palestinian and Jewish communities.
I've heard directly that they are not only concerned for their family and friends living in the conflicted regions, but they are also fearful for their own safety here in our city. Although over 9,000 kilometers away, the impact of these events has been felt deeply here in Toronto.
Demkew says 12 of the recent hate crime reports were related to anti-Semitism, while 2 were related to Islamophobia. He says stepped-up patrols near places of worship, schools, and cultural centers will continue for the foreseeable future. Now, Muslim and Jewish groups across Toronto are calling for more to be done. Patrick Swadden spoke to some community groups and has that part of our coverage tonight.
While on patrol in neighborhoods across
2 days before today's police data showing a disturbing increase in hate crimes across Toronto, this incident was captured in Pickering. Durham police say 63-year-old Howard Cooper faces assault and mischief charges after allegedly ripping a Palestinian flag off a car, leaving behind a note with offensive language, and injuring the car's driver with his keys after being confronted.
This is happening in Pickering. Pickering.
Mohammed Iqbal's brother recorded the incident on camera. Iqbal was born and raised in Canada and has lived in the area for decades, but says he's treated differently when international conflicts involving Muslims are in the news.
Feels like 9/11, where we're just being blamed.
But as hate-related calls to police have surged since Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, both Muslim and Jewish groups in Toronto say they've been the targets of bigotry and intolerance.
There's a sad tendency for this to be exacerbated whenever there is conflict between Israel and the terrorist groups which act out of the Palestinian territories.
Richard Robertson from B'nai B'rith wants leaders to promote the message that hate is not tolerated in Toronto, a sentiment shared by Uthman Quick at the National Council of Canadian Muslims, who say they've reported a 1,300% increase in Islamophobic incidents since October 7th.
This is a time that we need to lower the temperature here in Canada. Of course, we know what is happening in Gaza, what has happened in Israel, and it's heart-wrenching to see that, but there's absolutely no need for the type of hatred and violence that we're seeing to become a factor on the streets of Toronto.
Quick says hate crimes often go unreported, and most suffer in silence.
Do not stay silent. Really talk about this, get the support that you need.
Mayor Olivia Chow met with the council earlier today, saying the city needs a platform for civil discussion.
We need to listen to each other. We need to make sure that we keep each other safe. We need to have a place where there's no hate.
Through it all, Torontonians we spoke to say they're holding out hope.
People who are experiencing them are probably really struggling right now and need the support of our community.
People should love each other, care for each other.
Hoping as the conflict continues, the city will show compassion. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
The Middle East conflict is also affecting debate at Queen's Park this week, and now an NDP member is accusing the premier of libel, while PC politicians are calling for her to be censured for online comments she made about the war. For a full recap of the day, let's turn now to Lorenda Redekop.
A lawyer for MPP Sarah Jama sent a cease and desist letter to Premier Doug Ford saying he defamed her. At issue is this social media post by Ford saying Jama has a long and well-documented history of anti-Semitism, hateful views, and publicly supported the rape and murder of innocent Jewish people. Jama's lawyer is demanding an immediate retraction and apology.
Not only do I agree with the Premier, but thousands of other people have agreed with it. If Ms. Jama has an issue with that, then she can come into her place here and speak as opposed to hiding somewhere else.
Ford's statement was a response to a post by Jama days after the Hamas attack. She did not specifically mention that attack, instead mainly focusing on the ongoing impact on Palestinians. She later posted an apology and clarified that she condemns terrorism by Hamas. Her party leader didn't appear to have a heads up about the legal action.
Did she tell you that she was doing this?
I've been aware that she feels that she's been libeled.
Did she tell you she was hiring a lawyer to file this?
No, I mean, our team is in constant contact with
You're not answering the
MPP
question.
Jama.
This is as MPPs continue to debate a government motion that would keep Jama from speaking in the House until she deletes her post and apologizes at Queen's Park.
Stand up and say, I made a mistake. Stand up and say, I shouldn't have done that. I'll delete that tweet.
Mainly, it's PCs getting up to speak, the Liberals making just one statement.
This debate, it's turning the temperature up instead of turning the temperature down. This debate is being weaponized.
All this as in question period, the opposition leader tried to keep the focus on the Greenbelt scandal, including questions about the premier using his personal phone for government business.
What is on that phone, Speaker? You know, that's what the people want to know.
She calls it government distraction. Another PC motion passed, condemning Hamas and supporting Israel's right to defend itself. The NDP abstained.
The ayes being 78 and the nays being 0.
A few protesters speaking out. As for that possible legal action against the premier, Jama's lawyer demands Ford retract his post and apologize within 7 days. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
In Windsor, Nathaniel Veltman's cross-examination continued today. He's accused of first-degree murder and terrorism charges in the deaths of the Afzaal family in London. Today, the Crown prosecutor pointed out inconsistencies in Veltman's statements. He testified that on June 6th, 2021, he went out for food, not to kill Muslims, but he said he changed his mind at the last second, veering to the left and striking the family with his truck. The prosecutor saying that's not what he told the police investigator or the psychiatrist who saw him after the family was killed. Veltman has pleaded not guilty to the charges, and the trial is still expecting more testimony in the days ahead. Another teachers' union making significant news tonight. The union representing the province's Catholic elementary teachers says 97% of its members have voted in favor of strike action.
Teachers around the province just keep telling me, I just want to teach. Their hearts are breaking because they got kids in their classes who aren't learning, not because the kids can't learn and not because the teachers can't teach, but because they don't have the time, resources, and supports they need.
The union represents 45,000 teachers in the province from kindergarten to grade 12. This comes a day after the Union for Elementary Teachers announced its members had voted resoundingly in support of a strike mandate. It doesn't mean teachers will necessarily walk off the job, but the unions say they hope it sends a message to the province as they negotiate new collective agreements. All right, 14 degrees and periods of rain on and off tonight. Nick Cernkovich is in for Colette tonight. Hey there, Nick. How's the forecast looking?
Well, Chris, pretty warm temperatures for this time of year. Now, to put it in perspective, the average for this time of year, the daytime high is about 13 degrees, the overnight lows about 3 degrees, and we're above both. In fact, today we're looking at temperatures at 16 degrees in the city of Toronto, similar temperatures elsewhere. In fact, St. Catharines, 18 degrees. Rain, however, has moved in through the evening hours. Rain showers continue through the overnight as well. By tomorrow morning, look for a bit of a wet commute as we start the day, then on and off light showers throughout the day. So we're not talking about a wash, but we're looking at light showers throughout the day tomorrow, and wind gusts up to about 40 kilometers per hour. It begins to taper for the weekend, but the weekend's still a little gray and a little wet. We'll get to that in the long-range forecast. For now, though, overnight lows tonight down to 13 degrees, about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain tonight. Tomorrow, another 5 is possible, high of 16 degrees with showers. It does taper into the weekend, but we've got colder weather on the way as well. We'll have your full 5-day coming up in just a bit.
Yeah,
Chris.
colder, no kidding. All right, thanks, Nick. Now to Brampton and a CBC Toronto exclusive. People who paid tens of thousands of dollars in deposits years ago were supposed to move into a new townhome project in 2020, but now they've learned the developer is facing legal and financial trouble, and their move-in date is still likely more than a year away. Farah Morelli has the story.
6 years after Dean Khan paid a deposit to move into a townhome here, this is what the site looks like, a large concrete slab in the ground.
The whole site is closed. There's nobody there. There's nobody working there. And what's going on?
Khan bought a 1+1 stacked townhouse with a move-in date of December 2020. He put down a $60,000 deposit. But since then, he's received notice of what the developer is calling an unavoidable delay multiple times.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just like, I can't do anything right now. I'm stuck because of this project.
Khan isn't alone in his frustration. CBC spoke to another buyer of a larger unit, and several other buyers have expressed their frustration in an online forum. One of the main concerns raised, possible financial challenges faced by the developer, Van Dyke. CBC Toronto has since learned approximately $267 million in mortgages and liens have been registered against the property, though it's unclear how much of those funds have been advanced or the amounts outstanding. The developer is also the subject of at least 5 lawsuits from subcontractors, claiming they're owed more than $8 million for unpaid work.
I really feel for these buyers.
Real estate lawyer John Zanotti says if a project gets canceled, Tarion would cover a portion of the buyer's deposits. And even then, with the deposits returned, that money wouldn't go as far for those buyers now.
When they get back into the market, they're looking at paying a lot more for the same property. So they have a bit of a double whammy here. The deposit and the loss in value over the last 7 years.
In a statement to CBC Toronto, Van Dyke said in part, Updown's project has been affected by several factors, including but not limited to COVID-19, multiple union strikes, and an unprecedented 10 interest hikes. It added the project has endured site delays due to the nature of the geotechnical and hydrogeological complexity. It wouldn't comment on the ongoing suits. Van Dyke says it's now planning for a phased completion between the end of 2024 and mid-2025. Khan has his doubts it'll ever finish, but is contractually obliged to wait.
I'm living very close by, which is like 5 minutes away, so I always check once in a while, once a week, twice a week, what's going on there, and there's nothing really happening.
Farah Morelli, CBC News.
Welcome back. Seeds of some historical plants officially returned to the Portlands today amid the ongoing major revitalization project there by the water. And part of what's catching attention with the story is the way the seeds were discovered. Tyler Cheese has more.
Right now we're standing at the new mouth of the Don River. As part of all of that excavation work, there were areas that were left fallow about 2 years ago.
While construction happened in other parts of the site, this spot was left untouched until some strange-looking plants started sprouting.
One of the construction workers was able to identify that the plants that had germinated were not typical species that you would see a volunteer weed species coming in on the site.
The surprising discovery eventually led researchers from the University of Toronto to get involved. They found the plants had grown from seeds that were buried before the 1890s. So these bulrushes here were actually grown from those seeds that are over 100 years old. So what they did was they took a bunch of the soil from this site, they moved it over to U of T, and they were able to germinate the plants out of that soil, and now they've moved them back here to the site.
Over 100 years ago, the Toronto Harbour Commission filled this area, they decided that they were going to make a new port at the mouth of the Don River.
For decades, the Portland served as an industrial hub for the city, but in 2017, construction began to revitalize the area. The discovery of these ancient plants happened a few years later.
That's what's really special about it, was that, you know, with a little bit of a helping hand, we are now going to see nature take back this space.
These are some of the cattail species that were able to be germinated.
The researchers grew a handful of plants from those ancient seeds, and earlier today, they were returned to the original site.
You very rarely in science have kind of closure on a project like this, where there's almost a kind of spiritual return of the samples to the environment. I think that was really special.
The research lead says there's still plenty to be learned from these plants, as well as the other seeds sifted from the recovered soil.
They're quite old, and they represent the suite of kind of native wetland plants that you'd expect in a thriving and relatively unimpacted, at least by human urbanization, wetland.
These pieces over here, I think, are quite interesting.
But for now, she and those involved in the revitalization project say they're just happy to see the plants return to where they belong.
The world of mosses is something that you have to look at really carefully.
Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Staying at the waterfront, a new childcare center celebrated its grand opening today.
Across the city of Toronto, there is not an adequate amount of childcare spaces to meet the need that we're seeing. A center like this is addressing that need. This is 62 spaces here for families right now and for the future.
Aquabella Child Care Center is part of the third phase of the Bayside development on the East Waterfront area. The center has 1 infant room, 2 toddler rooms, and 2 preschool rooms with a total capacity for 62 children. This is one of 5 planned child care centers that'll be built in an expanding residential community. Councillor and Deputy Mayor Asma Malik says the city will expand community services in the area, including a new TDSB school and recreational center. All right, Nick, back to you. And I know it's only Thursday, but I can't be the only one thinking ahead to the weekend.
Well, you know, Chris, I've been looking for outdoor plans for the last couple of weekends, and it seems every time I look at the weekend, we're talking about rainfall. We're still dealing with rainfall as we head into this weekend, not quite as much as tonight and tomorrow, but still looking at some wet weather heading into Saturday and Sunday. We'll get to all that in the long-range forecast. Let's talk about the rain right now, however, and it's actually all linked together. This system is pushed in through the evening hours, and rain showers continue through the overnight period. By tomorrow morning, as I mentioned earlier, looking at a bit of a wet commute. I mean, we're not talking about a wash here, about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain through tomorrow morning, another 5 millimeters of rain or so through tomorrow afternoon. Rain showers for tomorrow morning, heavier at times through sort of the mid-morning, then it tapers off into light showers into the evening hours, and then by tomorrow night, really kind of broken up. By Saturday, generally just sort of cloudy skies, and you've got some isolated showers here and there, especially into the afternoon. Not a whole lot to speak of, but probably want to take the umbrella just in case. Totals coming in anywhere from about 10 to 15 millimeters across the GTA. Some areas will see a little bit more, but that's a look, broadly speaking, at what we're expecting over the next about 24 hours or so. Winds are also picking up. By tomorrow morning, we're looking at winds out of the south, gusting to about 40 kilometers per hour. They do ease as we head into tomorrow afternoon, down to about 20 kilometers per hour, but a breezy morning at least to start the day. As we head through tonight, we're looking at lows of 13 degrees in the city of Toronto. This is way above seasonal. Average for this time of year, about 3 degrees. But we start inching closer to average as we get into the next few days. By Saturday and Sunday, we've got the risk for some isolated showers there. But notice the temperature starting to drop. 13 is seasonal on Saturday, overnight lows close to seasonal. Sunday, though, this is going to be the cold one. 8 degrees during the day, 1 in the city of Toronto, and that's for the overnight period. Outside, we're looking at temperatures hitting the frost point there. It bounces back, though, into next week with sunshine on Monday. Chris.
All right, looking forward to that bounce back. Thanks, Nick. Hey, welcome back. A retirement home in Scarborough hosted a birthday party today for a man who recently turned 100 years old. Fred LaFontaine doesn't live at the facility, but he is responsible for building it, and he still shows up regularly with life advice for the residents. Greg Ross has this story.
Happy birthday to you. Fred LaFontaine turned 100 on October 6th.
Today, residents at the Scarborough Boutique retirement residence gathered to celebrate with him. LaFontaine says he doesn't mind getting older because every year he gets more valuable.
I really qualify now as an antique.
He says he often gets asked the secret to longevity.
I think if you want longevity, you get parents with good genes, big help.
But his family says there's much more to it than that.
He's very disciplined. I mean, he really does watch what he eats, and he's mindful that he has to do exercise, and so he walks, and when he gets up in the morning, he's lifting weights.
He also continues to stay involved with the business that he spent the better part of his life building. This retirement home is one of many of them. At one point, he operated nursing homes and retirement homes all across southern Ontario.
All the way from Ottawa to Chatham.
This is the last one that is still in the family. His daughter Marie-Josée now runs it, but Fred comes in a couple of times a month to oversee programs with residents, many of whom are decades younger.
He dispenses advice to them. He actually gives them advice on how to live to be 100.
I came here for my own good. I love being with them.
And he says he plans to continue being a part of it as long as he can.
I thank God every day for good health.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Finally tonight, with the Leaf season already underway and the Raps set to play their home opener next week, Scotiabank Arena is rolling out some new menu items.
This year we got a lot of ooey gooey mac and cheese and grilled cheese and butter chicken sandwiches, so it's pretty decadent. I think everybody's going to really enjoy themselves.
How's this for decadence? You can grab a butter chicken sandwich or try the triple bacon poutine. And if those don't satisfy your craving for carbs, how about the grilled cheese sandwich with Havarti, Gouda, aged cheddar, and mozzarella? Are you hungry yet? It's not too late. Go grab a snack or something. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.